Hey, I'm Rita.
And I'm Leigh.
And welcome to the Me For Her podcast.
We are two gay girls living polar opposite lives on different sides of the country, here to talk shit and share with you our experiences between 20 and 30. Hello and welcome back to the Me For Her pod. I have got a special guest with us tonight and I'm so excited. Ellie's actually been requested by a couple of people to come on and be a guest. So we finally got her on. Now that she's in lockdown, she's not as busy anymore. Most of you would know her as Western Bulldogs women's AFLW captain and all-Australian footballer and just a legend. So welcome, Ellie. Thank you for being on.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. Lovely intro too.
Yeah. Again, I like to wing these things. How are you? How are you going? How's life? Obviously you're in lockdown, but how are you going besides that?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously it is tough with lockdown, and I'm a real person that loves connection and loves seeing people and loves being around people. So having that taken away from you has been probably really challenging. But aside from that, I've been able to keep working, keep training for footy stuff, and been able to kind of do different things here and there. So I feel like I'm in probably more of a fortunate position out of all the people in Victoria when it comes to the lockdown. So no, I'm tracking all right, which is nice.
Your sister has a son, right? How's she going in lockdown?
Yeah, good. She's for the vast majority of it, she was going into the office and working from the office. But in this latest lockdown, she's working from home. And so it's school holidays at the moment. And he is just an absolute menace of a child. I love him dearly, purely because he's such a menace. It's great value. Hearing the stories and stuff like that she comes back with him. So it's funny.
You just got to feel for parents in lockdown, don't you?
Yeah.
When they're at home with children that need to be outside.
Yes. So it's been a battle for her and many parents, I believe, statewide.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of family, tell us a little bit about your childhood and who's important to you in your life.
Yeah, so pretty fortunate. I got mum and dad at home, and they've been great, super supportive of me my entire life, not just sort of on a football basis, but just life in general. And we have a really solid relationship between us. I've got my brother and sister. My brother's up in New South Wales, Queensland, some part of the world, working and all that. And then I've got my sister, obviously, who's here with us, and we're super close, and I think we miss hanging out a fair bit, even though we probably drive each other insane. And then, just sort of growing up, we're a big footy household. As you can imagine, you know, Dad played, Mum played, I think, a season in like I know this is terrible, but back in the day, I think they called it like the midgets or something like that in the under-9s, which is so bad. And
you got away with it back then, though, didn't you?
Absolutely. So I think she had a season there, and I think she sucked. I think like all the stories I've heard was that she just sucked so badly. So bless her cotton socks. And then, my brother and sister have both played footy. My brother doesn't play anymore, but my sister actually does. So it's pretty incredible for her to have been playing footy. Like, obviously, she's had a baby, and then she's done her ACL as well, and she's come back and started playing footy off the back of that stuff. So, I mean, incredible, absolutely incredible in that regards as well.
So you all grew up sort of with a footy in the backyard, just it was a part of life, was it?
Pretty much. Footy in winter and then out with a cricket bat in summer. But mind you, like, I think cricket ended up being a lot worse for our family. Just the tantrums if you went out was horrific. And I was probably the worst of it. I was the main culprit. I would throw the bat, I'd crack it, I'd run inside, be like, stuff you all, I'm not playing anymore, and just lose it. And Mum would just be like, oh, here we go again, kind of thing with it all.
It's kind of like, it's like when you play Uno. Uno's not a family fun game.
No, not at all.
Uno's terrible.
most board games and games like that are terrible, especially for competitive people. So we're very competitive.
My family's exactly the same, and it's just it ruins relationships. You just can't come back from it for like a few weeks.
Exactly.
So is that just how you started playing footy? Just out in the back with siblings, mum and dad?
What was that? Sorry?
Is that how you started playing footy? Just in the backyard, just picking it up?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a lot of sort of kicking out the front with mum and dad and brother and sister and being around footy. Actually, they started doing Oz Kick, my brother and sister, and being the youngest, I was like, of course I have to copy what they're doing. So I joined in Oz Kick from there. But my nana, who's just recently passed, actually, she was a life member with St Kilda, and
I saw that.
Yeah, and she was just a big football person. Like everyone sort of known her for her passion and loyalty for the Saints, and I got a lot of that from her. So I used to go to the footy every week with her, and that was incredible. That showed me sort of strength through loyalty, and that's something I kind of incorporate a lot in my football now. And yeah, I think a lot of passion grew from family through football, which is amazing to have. And I'm very fortunate in that position.
Do you think if your grandmother could say anything now, it would be telling you to jump ship?
Well, funnily enough, because obviously St Kilda have had a team for the last couple of seasons now, and when they did come in, she'd ask me. She was like, "So, what are you going to do? Are you going to have your team given you another contract yet, or do you reckon you might go across? Do you reckon they'll trade you across or something like that?" I was like, "No, I think I'll stay."
I'm the captain.
So all signs are leading to me staying at the Dogs, so I'll stay there. Though I think part of it would have loved for me to have gone and played for the Saints, but I hate to say it, I don't think I'll ever play for them. I mean, I know I won't, so I'll definitely stay at the Dogs. Don't want to put that out there.
Yeah. Let's not start any rumours.
No.
And you saved her life at a football game, hey? That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it was such a whirlwind experience, and a lot of it sort of, I don't know, I feel like I've almost blocked out a lot of what actually happened. But yeah, after a game of footy, coincidentally, it was between St Kilda and Bulldogs back in 2003, and our current coach, Nathan Burke, he was playing in the game, and I think Saints won in a real nail-biter kind of game. And then after the game, she went to the toilets, and we were kind of standing there for quite some time, and the crowd just left. There was no crowd anymore in the stadium, and she was still in the toilet. And I was out the front of the toilet with Georgie Day, who still works at the Saints, who is Nana's best friend. I think she's 81 or 82 or something like that. Incredible. And she was like, "Oh, we should probably go in and have a look and see if she's in there." And I went in there, and she kind of somewhat yelled out to me, "Nana," and I climbed under the cubicles of the toilets and had to get her out. And she almost walked out and bounced off the walls. It was really bizarre what actually happened. And then I kind of just got her into the corner, and we ended up getting ambulance. And then back then it was her phone, lucky the Nokia 3310, I think it was, the brick phone that she had to call all the family and get everyone to the hospital. She had 11 kids, so the hospital was pretty packed after that. But yeah, she ended up having a stroke, and we got her to the hospital, and yeah, lived to tell the tale, and lived for another 18 years, so which was incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. See, look, obviously the game was a stressful game.
Yeah, extremely stressful.
Yeah. Well, thank God you were there, and what a cool bonding story for you and her as well.
Oh yeah, it brought us incredibly close together, and I think from that moment, we were already super close from that point. But yeah, from then onwards, our I guess connection grew tighter and tighter, and I didn't leave her side much throughout that week that she was in hospital, and
I bet.
Long after, sort of stayed by her side as much as possible. So yeah, we had a really nice connection and bond, and some great memories that I'll be able to keep sharing.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what it's about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So obviously you've played football for a really long time. what would be, I think I know what you're going to say, but what would you say your highest high would be in the time that you've played footy?
Well, obviously the grand final was pretty incredible. It was just, one of those experiences. But, I mean, I've had a few of those moments where they've been pretty special. I mean, round one for us in the first season was incredible, running out to Whitten Oval on a Saturday night. Like, I just remember people, like, the cages that we walk through there at Whitten, it was like kids sitting on top of it and, like, people just, like, rattling the cages, like, screaming at you. And it was an incredible experience, and it was almost overwhelming that you kind of got out into the field and were like, what is happening right now? But I think the grand final and then that week beforehand, obviously beating Melbourne by, I don't even know, I think it was by 5 points or not even, with like a minute and a half to go in the game, was incredible to get into the grand final. So it was like that game almost felt like a grand final in itself. Yeah. And then, but to play in the grand final a week later, that was just, it was a remarkable experience. It was hard fought and something, I'll be able to cherish for the rest of my life. And so extremely proud of.
Absolutely. And I guess when you first got drafted, did you go to Melbourne in the exhibition matches?
Yeah, it was with
you were originally at Melbourne?
Yeah.
Did you see the AFL coming as quickly as it did from that moment, or did you just think it was going to be exhibition matches for a while?
I thought it was going to be exhibition matches for a while. I thought because I think it was announced that they were going to do like 2020 was the aim to get the competition. So everyone's eyes were set for 2020, and I was like, beauty, I'll be 25, no dramas. I'll still have plenty of time to play in the AFL. Absolutely. And then randomly one day it felt like it just got announced out of nowhere, and it was almost a shock to the system, but it was like, shit, like how good's this going to be? And it was amazing. I think it was a really sort of special day for women's footy to hear that they were going to announce an AFLW competition. And I think since then it's, improved and increased and been remarkable. I think we've still got a long way to go, mind you. But when you think of just the exhibition games and playing for Melbourne to where we are now, it's changed and developed so much, and so it bloody should, to be honest.
Absolutely. It's our nation's sport, right? And our nation has women, so it only makes sense. And I think it is just getting stronger and stronger and more competitive. And it now allows girls that early teens, even younger, that were playing footy but then got to that point, where there was nowhere for them to go, to stick with footy. Whereas before they sort of went and found different sports, and some have somehow made their way back. But now they've got that path to go straight through or to work towards, whereas girls were leaving the sport because they had nowhere to go. And now they've got you guys and the whole competition to strive for. So it's only going to get better from here because, I mean, how could it not, with the depth of talent that's coming through? Tell us a low. There's probably been a few. I mean, it's a cruel game, as is every sport, but what would you say has been one of your low points?
I think season one in the end became a real low point. So I mentioned before how running out round one, and it was just a wild experience. It was such a high, and to win that game the way we did, it was really incredible. But from that point onwards, we lost every game bar from the last game, and there was a real expectation on our team that we were the team to almost win the grand final. I think if betting was on the AFLW then, I think most people would have put their money on us. And it was a common theme that we were going to win. We had the list to do it, and we didn't necessarily succeed in that area. And I didn't expect footy to go the way it was that year. I think working full time and then playing footy and trying to juggle life, friendships, connections, family, the works, everything that you're doing in between. Footy almost became a real low point in that first season just because of so much happening, and you didn't expect it to happen the way it did, and we didn't win, and only 7 games of footy, and it was a lot on the line for it. So I almost didn't hate footy, but I just thought, I thought it was a real low that I guess, the remainder of that first year. But it was nice to finish on a win, and I think that helped us sort of moving into the next year in the ability to win a grand final from that point onwards. But, yeah, middle of season one would definitely have to be a low.
Well, it's a little bit hard when you're getting, and it's such a drained argument. Everyone knows you guys are underpaid and overworked, I guess. You're putting in all the effort and it can't be a full-time job for you guys. And then to add on to that, the pressures of winning and as a captain as well, and being someone that people look to as a leader and a talent, it would only make sense that it just became a point where you went like, oh my God, like this is a lot, and still being so young as well. And I don't think people realize that when it comes to sport, that I think also people sometimes forget you're human beings.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And not just an athlete, and you're not just there to perform like trained monkeys. You're actually human beings who are, working really hard, not just at football, but in your jobs and your life, but putting in as much effort and then getting some, pretty tough feedback sometimes, and it can't be easy. So I can only imagine how that hits for you, especially with being the captain. But
Absolutely.
like you said, you took it on and you went on to the next year and you had great success. And it's funny you speak like that, because I remember Freo in the first year, they had a great list too. And it was almost pretty much the same. Like they had real expectation on them, and their first season was not great. And it's almost like they had the list, but because it was the first year, there was no way that the camaraderie could have been formed at that point. And so just because they had the list, it didn't mean just meant success straight away. But I mean, I've never spoke to Juddy about this, but I can imagine she felt a lot of pressure in that year too.
Only
for sure. To be a little bit.
That's why we were so excited when we beat Fremantle in that first game, because of that expectation.
Was it the first game?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So I think that's why it was like we were the two teams that kind of came in with that expectation, and then to beat them, we were like, we got this in the bag almost.
Yeah.
But you're right. That added expectation from it was bloody hard work, and something that, people don't necessarily understand. And people was like, oh, but you see the boys do it in the VFL or in the local leagues, they go and work full time and then go play on the weekend. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And they do that and they do a great job, but like, so do we, but we're also getting criticised of our sort of ability, our skills, fitness levels and all of that. Yet, like, we don't have the standards that the men's do, and we probably never will. Like, everything's so different. Like, our games are different, let's be real, and our body types are different. Men are obviously naturally bigger and stronger than what women are. So it's the inevitable that they're going to be able to do.
It's a different sport. Essentially, it's a different sport, basically.
Absolutely. But to be criticised the way they are, yet that's their full-time job. I think that's the hard part that comes with it, is that we're getting criticised on the exact same level as them, yet we can't devote as much time and effort as what they do. And, we're tired from working and studying and then trying to juggle that, not finishing training till late at night and all of the above. So, I have no doubt Juddy would have probably felt pretty similar in that first year as well, with that added expectation on the list to succeed and to perform well.
It's like anything. If you don't like something, don't watch it. If you don't like watching women's footy, don't watch it.
Exactly.
It's sort of similar question, but how do you deal with the pressures of being the captain, especially in that year that you guys went on to win the grand final, and then I guess in the year following, because you win a grand final and then all eyes are on that team the next year. How did you deal with being the captain as well as preparing yourself for that grand final in, I guess, the week leading up, and then carrying the team into the following year?
Yeah, obviously it was tough. Grand final weekend was a bit of a challenge, obviously, all the stuff that happened with Katie as well, in between. So there was a lot going on for us. But,
of course, yeah. But
to kind of win the grand final, I don't know. I don't feel like I had much of an emphasis on sort of my leadership skills in that first couple of seasons, and kind of just rode the bumps with it. as a team, we actually had really solid relationships, and we built such a strong level of trust amongst each other that the captain probably didn't need to do much work in that space. Okay. It was a team full of leaders, which was great. It was super handy. But then, fast forward 12 months and expansion comes in and we lose a lot of those players.
Of course.
That was a challenge in itself. So the next couple of years to lose some senior players on our list, I think really challenged me as a leader personally, and something that I then probably had to focus a bit more time and attention into. I didn't realise sort of capabilities of a leader and what it took, but it was something that I was super passionate about being and doing. Love to sort of lead people and do that kind of stuff. So I had to put a lot of effort into it, and it was a bit of a challenge, but we have some great support network. Found myself a really good mentor who does some amazing work, not just with me, but with our leadership group as a whole. And I think we've come a really long way. Like the relationships that we're starting to build, or that we had to build then, and the connections that we had to build, I think we drove a lot of strength between us through the loyalty of staying, which was lovely, I guess, with our group. And there's a lot of care there. There's a lot of care in everything that we do, and I think we pride ourselves on that stuff. So, which is really good to have. But we now as leaders, we've got to kind of keep taking that next step and keep challenging our own ability. But it's been good. Like, I mean, I've got a great support network around me. It's still a challenge in itself, but it can be such a rewarding experience at the same time. So even though there are some real low moments, and I probably feel a lot more than what I should, but especially with the lows, but the highs that come your way are so well worth it. And to see your team succeed and to see your teammates succeed is something that I'm extremely passionate about as a leader, and I love witnessing, and that's what we're definitely planning to do as a group, especially now.
Yeah, amazing. And how does it make you feel? I know that there's a lot of young girls that sort of look up to you, and does that's a bit of a drive for you as well, I guess, because there is a lot of young girls that do go to the games, do watch you, are inspired by you, and essentially want to be like you when they get older. And is that like a real driving force for you when you run out onto the field?
Absolutely. I mean, I never really thought of myself in this capacity as a role model, but I think after games you just see like the young kids over the fence, like just screaming out your name and getting so happy and excited when they get a photo with you, or you get to give them a footy or something like that. And you find real meaning in what you're doing by seeing and witnessing things like that. So for me, I take real pride in being a role model and a leader in this space for women's footy, and being something that these younger girls get to see. I mean, I've had women before me walk and sort of lead the way, but not everyone got to see them because they didn't get put on TV or in newspaper articles, or they didn't have social media to kind of promote what they do. So I feel like it's really important for us who get to play the game now to really lead by example and be really good role models, because we do have the opportunity to sort of promote the game and promote ourselves, I guess, in what we're doing, and show people on so many different platforms what we're capable of. And it's when you see the young girls at games in particular, and they're just like, I want to play footy now, and you get so many stories like that. It's amazing to hear and amazing to witness. And I'm glad that these kids growing up won't know any different, won't know that women's footy didn't really exist.
Wasn't a thing, yeah.
Yeah. And when they talk about, like when people sort of talk about it with them, be like, women's footy didn't exist once upon a time, they're almost going to be like, what? Like, what do you mean? So, I mean, even my nephew, he's like, he was watching the boys play, I think it was last week or the week before, and was like, go Doggies. And he's like, wait, is Ellie playing? And like my sister's like, no, this is the boys. He's like, oh, like he was like,
so like, where is she?
So she should be playing. Like,
awesome.
This is the Doggies. So
yeah, he doesn't know the difference. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I work the primary school I work at. We've had kids talk about their favourite players, and amongst it are women and men. And I'm just like, and boys are saying that because now they can. And I definitely think that, you know, your name and lots of other women's names are going to be coming up for years and years and years to come beyond your time for the pioneers of the game in terms of, you know, the AFLW and being on TV and paving the way, and the fact that you stuck with it for so long, even when it was you were just playing for fun. And I think that's going to be it's a history made, essentially, and I think your name's going to be spoke about for a very long time when it comes to women's football. Just walk us through the day a little bit, like grand final day. Was it played in Melbourne?
Yeah, our one was at Visy Park. So the night of the game, like sleeping, we had Jordan Ruffetti was one of our assistant coaches, and he'd obviously played in the grand final for the boys a couple of years beforehand, and he's like almost like, don't be surprised if you don't sleep or anything like that because of the nerves. So I was like, no, I'll be all right. Like, always sleep before games. I went to bed all right, but I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I could not get back to sleep at all. I was buzzing. I got up and just did my normal routine as what I would do. So like I have a shower before the game. So I got up, like showered, and I got dressed like so early and I was ready to go. And I was like, I just need to go. I just need to get to Whitten Oval, and because we're catching the bus together as a team. So like got in the car and we got there so early, and like a heap of other girls were there as well. I think we're all kind of experiencing the same thing. But then from that point onwards, kind of nothing went our way in the lead up to it. So the bus was late getting to the game, getting to the ground. So like, and I get travel sickness. So sitting in a bus for me is not ideal for a long period of time. So I tend to catch Ubers or taxis or jump in the team van when going to games when we travel a fair bit. So I was like, no, grand final day, got to be in the bus with the team. And I was just sitting at the front of the bus being like, oh, when is this going to end? It was pouring down rain. We hadn't played in rain all year. So that was on the back of everyone's minds. And then it was kind of just a rush to get to the warm-up almost from that point onwards. And it was pouring rain from the warm-up. I remember coming in just absolutely drenched. So we were thinking, geez, everything is against us today. But you can almost turn it into a motivator and something to sort of drive you through it. I don't think we started the game very well though, so we didn't probably use it as the best driving force. But I think from halftime we sort of found our gears and went to another level in the second half. And to come away with a win that day was incredible, despite the odds of sort of everything going against us with that kind of stuff. But that was simply out of our control. That was something we couldn't control by any means. So, we had to focus on what we could control, and that was playing a game of footy, and that's what we did, so which was nice to win it in that way.
Absolutely, and you obviously deserved it. You had to feel for Brisbane, though. That was their second loss in 2 years, and that would have been bloody hard, I tell you what, to bounce back from as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I did feel for him, but in saying that, I was so happy for him that they ended up sticking fat and winning.
You can't care. Like, you can't – well, you win a grand final. I'm sorry. Like, sorry for you guys, but I just won a grand final. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Everyone was saying sort of, oh, how unlucky for Brisbane. But for me, I was like, if Brisbane didn't lose their second grand final, that means we did. So I'm glad they lost.
Look, you've got to you can have it. You can look. There's all good sportsmanship, but you can still want to win.
Absolutely,
you need that.
Mind you, they win it this year, and I think that was much more deserving from their end. So, and
how much sweeter would that be knowing they had lost two as well? And especially absolutely. For the people that did stay loyal to that football club. So good on them.
Exactly.
So obviously your partner came over to the Western Bulldogs from a different team. How do you guys find balancing a relationship and being teammates? Do you ever go just like I asked Juddy and Ebony this, and I know exactly what Juddy and Ebony like because I played for Swans with them, and Taylor and I cannot play together. and Juddy and Ebony obviously can, but at Swans we used to get into just like biffs. It would be me and Juddy and then Ebony and Taylor, and I did bring this up with them, and I was like, you guys must have walked away from some training sessions going, don't talk to me. Has that ever been the case? Or you guys are pretty good at knowing when to shut it off?
Not to that extreme, but sort of early, like the first season that Dee came across, we were finding our feet a little bit.
This is my turf.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was like, you're coming into my territory here. Like, I was here first. And I'm so passionate and so competitive at football. Like, when I'm there, like I'm there, and
it's football.
I'm ready to be a footballer as much as possible. And I think at the start we almost struggled with that, probably more so because of how passionate I was. And mind you, like when we played against Melbourne the year beforehand and we lost, I didn't talk to her for like a couple of days after. I was so bitter about it, so pissed off about it. And then I end up having to like sort of tail between the legs and really apologise. Like I knew I was in the wrong.
Yeah.
But like I'm just so passionate when it comes to footy.
Yeah, of course.
But I think we've never really walked away from a session being super angry or upset with each other or anything like that. We have definitely had moments where we've just kind of like, I could just strangle you right now.
And you just like walk away.
You are pissing me off so much. And I think it's worked both ways between us. But right now, sort of we had some good conversations about finding the right balance between it all. And that's something you have to do. I mean, if you're going to play with your partner, you have to find the right balance between sort of leaving your relationship at the door and then being footballers when you're there. Especially for me, like in my position as a captain, I feel like I have an added responsibility with it all. So I want to make sure that when I'm there, I'm the best teammate I can be. And that's why you have to kind of sort of separate the two. And I think it's worked wonders for us. I think we've both really enjoyed our footy with it all. And then away from footy, life's great between us. So I think we've got a really good balance between it all. But it is hard work. There's no denying that by any means.
It's going to make you guys stronger, to be honest, though, because I know I say this to Tay, like we survived. And the year I played for Swans, I actually went down and I said to Gravesy, I said, I really want to play, but like I don't know how much I can commit. I just sort of want to play reserves because just for a bit of fun. And also like Taylor and I just can't play together. And then she was like, no, I need a bigger body down forward line. So I played and I just accidentally ended up playing league and we won a premiership that year. But like, Taylor, I think, hated almost every second of it. But I feel like if you can play a competitive sport with your partner, like at the end of it, it's only going to make you stronger. Yeah. But I know Dee did her knee last year. How hard was that for you? Because it was during a game and then you've then got to, I guess, deal with your team and be the captain, but then your partner's hurting. And she's your partner and your teammate and you're her captain, like, and when they're hurting, you can't just switch off the fact that, you know, she's your partner and you care for her, but also you're then dealing with playing a football game. Was that hard? Was that a real challenge?
Yeah, it was. It was really challenging. When she did it, I was kind of the first person there almost. And like, I looked at her and I was like, is it? Like, have you done it? And immediately she knew she had done it. But it was late in I think halfway through the last quarter. So I was like, I don't have much left to go. We're up by a fair bit. Hopefully, like, we shouldn't lose this game, essentially. But, yeah, there was moments throughout that last quarter where my mind kind of just turned to her a little bit. And it was hard to kind of not think about it. But sort of the teammates around me I had, particularly Lammy, just kept sort of keeping me in check and, mate, you're right, like, you got this, we'll be all right, we'll keep going and stuff like that. So she sort of understands me really well and helped me a lot to get through that last quarter. I think for that next week it was really challenging having someone do an ACL in your team is hard enough as it is. And, I mean, we've had a few and it's been bloody tough to witness that, but then to have your partner do it, And so at home, you're dealing with it as well. So I was a person that was driving back and forth to help her. I was the one that was sort of helping her get in the shower, go to the toilet, dress, sort of making coffees, bringing her food, bringing her drinks, looking after her. So all week I was doing that. And then I was going to footy, so then going to training, and she was staying at home. So the guilt that I felt was just overwhelming that week. And like it, obviously we'd come off the back of 4 wins. So then to go into this game, we're coming up against Collingwood, who are in red hot form. So going into that game, I was tired, to be honest. I was really tired. I was exhausted and drained from everything that had happened. It was like, and so many moving parts to it. Like I had to show up at footy and try and be super supportive, but then everyone at footy was like, how's Dee going?
Yeah.
And then at home, I was looking after her, and then family and everyone was calling me and being like, hey, how's she going? What's happening? And all that. And so I was checking in on that front, and then looking after her on top of that, and then trying to work on top of that. And so it was really overwhelming for me. So after the game against Collingwood, I mean, we played terrible. It was probably our worst performance for the year. I mean, aside from probably the Adelaide game. It was really bad, but it was our first. I mean, we lost the first game, but that was our first sort of belting with this young group that we have. And as a leader in that space, it was really tough. So after the game, I kind of walked into the rooms and just almost broke down essentially from it. But like, not because I was like, I mean, obviously I was sad that we lost, but I was drained. I was so exhausted from it. And I was just sitting there like, I don't know how I can do this. So the next couple of weeks were really tough. I was pretty drained and pretty exhausted from it all, and at no one's fault. Like I think it was a real learning curve for me. In hindsight, I probably would have asked for a bit more support. I thought I was managing it okay, but then realising how drained I was in between sort of, work, looking after her, and then playing footy, and then being a captain and all of that in between. It was a bit of a juggling act, but I mean, I learned a lot from it, but got through it okay with Dee, and I mean, she's flying at the moment, so it's great to see that stuff, that reward with it all. And I mean, as tough as it is seeing someone be injured, but your partner being injured, I think you've just got to try and see what works and what doesn't work. And I learned a lot from it, which was good, which is a good experience to have, I guess. Wish it didn't happen, but was a good experience.
Of course. I think also that it comes back again to, being a human being and human things happening to you and to people around you, and people forgetting that as well, because then they just expect you to get up the weekend later and just perform and just poker face it. And obviously your moment in the change rooms after it's an accumulation of things, and I think people don't sit down and go, okay, well, like Dee's done her knee, but it has a roll-on effect as well. And
for sure.
I think also, like you said, a learning lesson, and I think that a lot of people find it hard to ask for help, especially when you're the leader and you're the one people come to for help. But then it's hard.
That was a real tough part with it all. Is learning when to ask for help with it. But like our team, our staff, our coaches, the players, family and friends and all that in between, like they were incredible. Like everyone was as supportive as they could be with it all, and like just incredible support network around me personally, and obviously around Dee as well. So everyone did their best and tried to do everything they could to help us out. So there's no doubt that was a bonus feature to it. But I learn now that it is like, I know that it's okay to ask for help, but it's actually then doing the asking is the next part to it as well.
Well, we all know it's not something we find easy. I think people find it a bit scary and daunting. Do you think when you can, it'll be important for you guys to take some time to go away, get some R&R? Because I know Jodie and Ebony at the end of every season, obviously this year's been different, they like to go on a holiday and just not talk about footy because their whole life is basically there's footy somewhere in every aspect. Is that something that you guys like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So her family have a cabin down in Echuca. So we actually went down there for Easter weekend, which was great to get away and to spend some time down there. A couple of the other girls came along with us.
Yeah, I think I saw that on your socials, yeah.
Yeah, so it was nice to do that. And I don't think we actually spoke footy at all. We just kind of talked shit and drank beers and was great, to be honest, was awesome.
Like you guys deserve to do.
Yeah, it was awesome to experience that moment at the end of what was a pretty tough season with D in particular. And then, I mean, we got away to Noosa, but yeah, it would have been nice to have sort of gotten overseas somewhere. We definitely had planned to get away, but bloody COVID has been a sort of high feature, saying in the last
sort of
couple of years.
It's ruined a few plans, hasn't it? Jesus.
Has it ever? So,
well, and look, the pro card to that is everyone's been able to save enough money so when we can go anywhere, we can all afford to go somewhere.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's how I justify all my spending is like, well, I can't go on holidays, so like it's okay that I buy this that I don't need or buy this for the kids because I can't go anywhere. I can't spend money on flights.
Absolutely.
No, it will be very nice when everyone can get, well, everyone that plays sport can get that postseason trip again.
Oh, but people in general as well.
Yeah,
like even just to take a break from work, I guess.
Yeah.
It'd be nice too. So.
I've got to take my work with me because my work is children, so they've got to come.
Yeah, of course.
I can't call in sick that day and just go for a little trip. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be.
Now I know the Western Bulldogs are they're very big on their pride game. I mean, most clubs are, all clubs are, I should say, but I don't know why Western Bulldogs stick out to me as being quite passionate about the pride game. Am I correct in saying that they're quite passionate about it and they make quite an effort to speak out and proud about the pride game? Yeah,
absolutely. It's something that the whole club really gets involved in, and you know, we've had great sort of support from, I guess, our admin staff. So one of our, I guess, admin workers has designed the jumper for the last handful of years, and she's been amazing in the work that she's been doing with it all and bringing the team along on the journey, which has been incredible. And then the club wanting to share stories, not just like of players in the playing group, but just people in general, and putting it out there and being proud to talk about it, which has been great in that front. And then the club itself, so within our own four walls, we get a fair bit of education on it all, which is great. So our PDM, Hef, she is phenomenal in this space. She does a ton of work doing things for the players, and she put on, I guess, an amazing sort of presentation for the playing group and really educates our playing group on it all, which is great. And it's not just sort of the pride game, but we obviously did it with Indigenous round as well.
Yeah.
Like I think our club, I think they take the time and effort to acknowledge, I guess, certain milestones and certain things that are happening within the league and being passionate and proud about it. And something I'm so grateful for our football club. And we're really big drivers within the community foundation space, and I think that's where a lot of it stems from.
Wow, that was a really cool chat. I liked that one.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram, Me For Her Pod, and like and subscribe. Bye.